But I don't usually go to Hanabusa's because I bus and the logistics, and I like to come here, but I didn't know where I would have been here. I was really bummed out.
You can come here every Tuesday. I'll still be here.
All right, I will.
Either me or a reasonable facsimile.
All right.
Well, thank
We
you
appreciate
again
that.
for joining us today, and it's been quite a week, 2 weeks, hasn't it? Charlottesville was obviously a horrifying event, and apparently I don't know if there's anything in the Senate to censure the president. Has the Senate done anything?
I haven't. I've read about some of those.
I know they've done something in the House, but I don't know if there's anything in the Senate. But that should he can't get away without some kind of anyway. Censure would be we would ask if there's something like that going on that that the senator sign on. And then, of course, when is the recess over?
The end of this month.
So they're gonna,
right before Labor Day.
So then they're going to get back and have to deal with the debt ceiling and the budget.
Yes.
Right? Aren't those going to be the big things?
Correct. So the federal fiscal year ends September 30th, just like every. So they have to pass a budget, or else if they don't, they have to pass what's called a continuing resolution to fund government beyond September 30th, or the government
Shuts down.
stops
doesn't pay
functioning.
it. Yeah.
That is not as bad as if the government, if Congress doesn't pass,
Raise it.
raise the debt
Right.
limit ceiling, because then that will
Right.
has much more
Trigger
Right.
default.
drastic effects, including Social Security benefits and things
Right.
like
Yes.
that. Is that because it limits the ability of the government to function.
Well, not only that, it's the credit of the U.S. and
Yeah.
we would just be tank even more than we
Yeah,
are
we'd be in default
internationally
someplace.
if we default. So obviously we can't allow him. I don't know if it means some of the Democrats have to get together with the Republicans. I don't know what's going on in the debt ceiling. Do you have any?
I mean, I think the discussion similar to like when
Is this
President
only
Obama,
the House, or it has
They-
to be both
We're talking.
bodies?
They both have to.
Okay.
that if they could do it as a clean debt ceiling,
That means no limit
no
on.
riders, no
No
policy
riders.
riders, because that's what
Oh.
both sides may look at. Okay, well,
Here's our chance.
Yeah, they
here's our
always-
chance.
Yeah.
This is a must-pass legislation, just like some other things. We'll just put this
On the
in.
post
So
office and.
Again, I would take an opposing view. The Republicans have control of Congress. They have control of the White House. It's their job to increase the debt ceiling.
yes.
And if they want a Democratic vote, that comes at a very high price.
Right.
Medicare for all, that's a good payback, right? Right? That would be a good trade-off. I'd go for that.
In my
So, again, the Republicans, this is their government. They want to keep the government open, they can vote for it.
Mm.
And,
yeah, there's some dissension amongst the Republicans too. Yeah, exactly
This
though.
liberty.
that's.
Right, but they need to get us on board. The Democrats.
And that
on
comes
board.
at a very high price.
Yeah,
Yes.
I know that Freedom Caucus members don't like spending in general, so they're trying to get budget cuts in order to
This
get
is
them to
the
sign
stuff's
for
already been
debt.
spent,
In order to
so
get them to sign on for debt ceiling.
And where does Senator Hirono stand on this?
What's that?
Voting
debt
for
ceiling.
or against the debt ceiling?
I think we'll just have to see what as you say, what the Republicans propose. I mean, I think the Democrats, just like with healthcare, have been unified in speaking with one voice. Hopefully, they can remain that way. I think.
But you know, at this fundraiser Sunday night, Senator Schatz said, well, you know, there's Republicans starting to wobble and peel off from Trump, that we have to look at where we can possibly develop some bipartisan cooperation.
Sure.
Would that be on this?
We'll have to see. I mean, like I said, the Republicans were pretty firm with the repeal of ACA, with the exception of 3.
Yeah.
So whether they can stand unified on that, but that doesn't necessarily get them to the number that they need. So we'll just have to see. But like you said, it's up to the Republicans to show their hands first,
Yeah.
and then to see whether Democrats, if what they're going to put on the table is a discussion point, or where we go from there.
And what I'm hearing from you is the Democrats not only are waiting for the Republican to offer, they will come back in some unified manner? Is that the strategy?
That's my hope. I mean, I think they're laying markers saying, okay, you know, there are certain things like Medicare, Medicaid, certain programs that they're saying we're not gonna, touch or things like that. So I think they're laying down markers. But I think, like you said, they're waiting to see what the Republicans want to propose first. If they're going to do it in a way that can not necessarily get a majority of Democrats, but
Right.
can get Democratic support, because there may be some Democrats that won't support it no matter what, just like there'll be maybe some Republicans.
Right.
If you don't do it in a certain manner, you're not going to get all the Republicans. So,
Well, there are a lot of the dark money guys, the Mercer types and others who wouldn't care if the U.S. didn't raise the
Imploded?
debt ceiling. They wouldn't care because they really want to dissolve the government. So, I know that Senator Hirono is familiar with those folks. So, anyway,
okay.
I'm sure she.
Am I right that in the Senate the budget needs 60 votes to pass?
No, reconciliation needs 50,
Yeah.
but in order to waive a budget point of order, you need 60. So that's what the issue was with ACA, is they only needed 51 votes to get it in there because it was part of budget reconciliation. But if it doesn't conform with certain rules, then there's a higher vote threshold.
Yeah, basically, if it increases any spending,
Correct.
but I'm just thinking as a new budget, I would
Continuing
think I would,
resolution would all go for 50 votes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would think of
I mean, but with measures like that, if there is a 60 vote measure that before you can put anything on the floor. So if you have, like, say 41 members, and that's what the Republicans did when President Obama was. They would just say, we're just not going to let things
Go to the floor.
go to the floor. We're just going to object, and we will hold it hostage.
Yeah.
What's
That's
her
what they-
position on things like that?
I mean,
Because I know the
Yeah.
Democrats they agreed to a lot of confirmations.
correct. And that's what they call the
Yeah.
nuclear option. They changed the rules to consider certain executive nominations, and then the Republicans carried it further for the Supreme Court Gorsuch nomination, that you only needed 50 votes instead of 60 to take it up. So where the Senate hasn't gone yet is to take up legislation, is that if they're going to try to do that. But again, that plays on both sides, and I think both sides realize at some point they're going to be in the minority, and if they go down that path, that you kind of come closer to the House as far as the majority rules, and the majority just dictates what happens. On the Senate, there is more of a voice for the minority party to
Resist.
have parliamentary procedures. So
Let me see, I know a number of us I am, and I know some other folks here are extremely looking ahead. All this stuff is gonna keep going on with Trump, and he's gonna keep cranking our change with the change, but this business of Sinclair Broadcasting purchasing, was it 52 or 72 local community radio and TV stations. The number I saw is they'll have a penetration of like 92% in rural communities. So when the Wyoming election just happened and the fellow who won hit the journalist, the Sinclair station, that was the night of the election, did not broadcast it. So you're talking about state-run media.
Or party run, at least.
Well, yeah. I don't know if this is a fairness doctrine issue. The fairness doctrine went away under Reagan, and I don't know why.
Or limits on how many stations.
Or
Concentration,
monopolies.
yeah.
I don't know what the FCC, what committee would that be? Who could we talk to about that? But it's very dangerous, Alan.
I'd have
I
to look.
agree.
It might be
very dangerous.
It might either be a judiciary issue depending on the marketplace, or it could be Department Commerce. So
Would
let me find out.
you
Let me
talk
find out.
with her about that?
Yeah, I was not aware of Sinclair Broadcasting. Let me go talk to
Google
our
them.
folks.
Oh yeah.
Google them.
To
Very,
see.
very, they're more dangerous than Breitbart.
Yeah, because they're on the TV. Where I'm from Seattle, and even in Seattle, a super liberal area, their Como is owned by Sinclair, and they had to put there's Sinclair says certain shows need to be put on.
Yeah.
One of the shows they put on is a daily terrorist alert, terrorist news thing, and their version of talking about terrorists was to show what Muslim women wear when they go swimming. And they had to put this on their news in Seattle, the major local news station, is a totally normal local news station I grew up watching, about what terrorists are doing when they're going swimming in full covered outfits. They were forced to do it, so they put it at 4 a.m. because they're not like that there. But.
So it says there's a FCC rule that prohibits having more than 39% of the U.S. households be within
There you
reach,
go.
but they're getting rid of that.
Well, that's
Under
because,
the
yeah,
new
because they're
FCC
getting rid of all the rules, so there needs to be an intervention,
Okay.
that's all.
Okay.
And I don't know who does that, so, anybody else? Yes.
Yeah, I just wanted to bring up that there are many bills being passed. I know this is in the Senate, but I assume, in the House, but I assume they go to the Senate for final approval. But Paul Ryan mentioned last night that they had passed 300 bills. He was very proud of the fact that in this time they passed 300 bills in the House. And one of the ones he mentioned was the Dodd-Frank and taking away some of the restrictions that provided consumer protection and against the banks failing. He put it in a very opposite way about it benefiting banks or whatever, but I think I can't begin to know what those 300 are, but I suspect a lot of them are very dangerous. So as they move to the Senate, I hope the senator is, I'm sure she'll be aware of them, but it's a concern because my point is that there's so much happening on the surface with Trump that that's a distraction that we're not really aware. It was only when he said that I mentioned that that I looked it up and thought, oh, so they're doing a lot of damage.
The two things I'd like to bring up is, first of all, I have.
Let me just.
Tickle.
I have a cough drop.
I have a cough drop.
Me too.
Always have coffee on the phone.
What?
A couple of times on the phone I've been talking to people and I had coughed so hard that I couldn't even talk.
Yeah.
I don't know what was up with that. Hasn't happened for a while, but
Getting old.
I wonder if they can pass a resolution that Trump's picture should not be shown anywhere.
I want to cut him off, that's what I want to know.
There's a campaign for that.
Well,
No, that
I think it works for our favor.
Well, you
He
yeah,
looks-
yeah.
He looks
Yeah.
more lunatic.
Anyone else want a campaign?
Okay.
Better off for us.
First thing is, I have real concerns about the escalation of martial rhetoric from the executive office. And I've sent a similar letter to Senator Schatz. Okay. But if we do, God forbid, have or in conflict with North Korea, it would have horrendous consequences for North Korea, Japan, and our region. Okay. So what I think that what I think we need to do is, first of all, State Department doesn't even have an ambassador to South Korea.
Correct.
Okay, or an assistant secretary for East Asia Pacific Bureau. So we need to address those things. We need to also take a look at the War Powers Act of 1973. It's been pretty much ineffective so far, but it needs to be rewritten. And in 2014, there was a bipartisan effort by, I guess, Tim Kaine and John McCain to rewrite that. So I think we need to relook at that. And Congress needs to take control and authority over its ability to limit, war powers. Okay, that's first issue.
Can I just
Second,
pile on that, and particularly the authorization for military force in
Yes.
2001, has the senator come out in favor of revising, updating that? Because certainly in Syria and other places, our actions, right?
I'll
So-
have to get back to you
Right.
on that one. I know it is a topic of discussion, and
Right.
certain members have raise that the authorized use of military force.
Right.
Yeah, there's been an attempt made to defeat it, but it hasn't been successful,
Okay.
so I think
Let me-
it's still.
But I would
Okay.
ask for her
Okay.
position and frankly recommend that we renew that
Okay.
in the broad sense what Charles is saying in the overall authorization for going to war.
Okay.
Okay. The second issue here, I'm speaking for the Lutheran Immigration and Refugee Services, okay? And they're an organization that's began in 1939, a lot of war refugees helped repatriate. And basically, there are about 22.5 million people in refugee status right now, over 60 million in displaced person status. So there are a number of bills that we have to defeat. We have to defeat the, the RAISE Act and monies for the wall, that sort of thing. And LIRS is asking for us to cap the number of refugees at no less than 75,000, not 50,000.
Okay.
So I know in Hawaii, the number of refugees we really admit is very small because of the high cost of living and cost of housing. However, I think we're a moral leader and we owe it to the country to basically stand up for what's right.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
One thing. It doesn't really get much attention, but the whole business about state voter rolls were hacked leading up to the 2016 election, and yet they haven't disclosed which states were hacked. So I think that information may be with intelligence services. I don't know if it's been shared with the members of Congress, but to the extent that that information could get passed along to the states, I would think that they could beef up their systems, and not only that, but perhaps their voters would be at least forewarned that their information may have been hacked.
And also along with that, I think unifying the way voting is done and maybe unifying the machines or not machines that are used.
Well, the federal government had an office that coordinated efforts across the states. Their job was, he just closed it, Trump closed it, which is consistent with the fellow who he's got in trying to gather on voting stuff, so.
Yeah, the voter suppression.
Yes.
I think something like 31 states had their
Yeah.
voter rolls hacked. They don't say anything was altered or anything, but it's been kept secret, and I don't see any purpose in having it secret.
Okay.
Thank you.
Does anybody have anything else for Alan other than, I know it's a Republican Congress, but the man is off his rocker. I don't know if the 25th Amendment is coming into play, and I don't know what the Democrats can do, even though they're not in the majority, but wow. And I don't know what the Republicans are saying, I don't know, but it's dangerous what is going on. Yeah, so,
Is there a
why we're
thing to
sitting.
impeach in the Senate, or is it only in the House?
Articles of impeachment need to start
in the House.
and then it comes over.
Trial is in
Okay.
the Senate.
trials in the Senate.
So
But the 25th
Okay.
Amendment, apparently there's some bills to look into his mental
That's a
health.
different.
Yes.
I've seen that.
Yes.
That's good. She should support that.
okay.
I like that smile.
But like I said, it's certain Republican members, I think Senator Corker,
Yes.
that use the issues of like stability and things like that. So you're seeing
Cracks.
certain members on the Republican side. I think they've tried to toe the line as long as they can with their president, but I think that they're not going to sacrifice their own political life, nor will they sacrifice what I think. And this is what I think the senator says. I mean, and we talked about this. I think she talked about this over the weekend. Where at least with Pence, she says, if you know what you get with Pence,
Right.
Yeah.
you know you're going to be against him, but you know where he stands.
Yeah.
Whereas Trump, he's, I guess, kind of amoral, right? He just kind of, he's very slippery.
He's an unhinged psycho is what he is.
Yeah.
In what he will do and say. So I think that is, I don't know if that is getting the Republicans more and more nervous because they on a day-to-day basis, no one knows what he is doing or saying.
Yeah, including him, I mean, you know, it depends on what, it seems like everything he said and everything he accused Obama of, you know, he's gone back and done
He's a one-trick pony.
in spades, you know.
Chances are tonight at his rally, we'll be hearing some more
Oh.
ammunition
yeah.
for his craziness.
Yeah.
This is the one in Nevada, right?
No,
Arizona.
Arizona.
He's going to Phoenix.
Yeah.
And the governor asked him, or the mayor asked him not to.
Yeah.
I think he has
Too
one
far.
coming up in Nevada as well, but yeah, I'm curious as to how this will go. Because there's some statistics in some of the states that he carried in the election, his poll numbers are way down.
Yes.
Including Wisconsin.
Good.
I would advocate for the Democrats in the Senate to not see this as an opportunity to watch the Republicans implode, you know, with or without Trump. This is an opportunity to get real focused on what is it we really want.
Sure.
And I would like to hear a lot of ideas, positive, unified force, not just unified in singing against repeal of Obamacare, but unified with new ideas, because I think one of the greatest things that has happened out of the situation, which being seen as an opportunity, people like me kind of not paying attention, people like all of us, obviously, but, you know, I'm not a party person, I haven't, you know, done this before. But we're trying to take down statues now. We're trying to talk about Medicare for all now. These really important things that we were not dealing with before. And so that is not necessarily about having a win for the Democrats finally by watching them implode, but having a win for preserving our democracy and hearing what people say in a way that we've never done before in my lifetime. It's got to be fun hearing about what people say.
Finally, we're approaching, if not a consensus, some kind of a debate that's going in that direction, that health care is a basic right
Yeah.
and not a consumer issue.
Yeah.
Senator Schatz has just come out, that was
Yes.
released today, with a, is it a bill, is that what he came out with, a Medicaid for all?
Yeah.
Okay.
Not single payer, but to make it available to the
For
states.
buy-ins, yes.
To buy in, so it's a step, it's not full single payer, but it is clearly
Another way.
No,
another,
but that's good.
it's a step, it's
Yeah.
excellent.
Yeah, it'll take us maybe
And that's an
25
example
years of incremental
of what she's talking
Right.
about,
change
that
and
it can't just be a better future
Failure.
or whatever their soundbite was, which was like, guess what?
to assist
That's
us.
pretty wimpy. The Chuck Schumer, the little thing that they came
A
out with.
better deal.
A better deal.
Lame and lame.
Come on,
Because that's reactionary.
yes.
You're saying you're better than Trump. Well,
Exactly.
everybody's better
And
than
they're
Trump.
feeling that they goes back to the.
That's
Well,
not the
the
conversation
problem
we need to be
is that
having.
pharmaceutical company lobby is got to the Democrats as well as
Yes,
Republicans.
Yeah.
and the people need to be
Very hard
calling
to
them.
fight that.
Just
It
adapted the
Democrats need to
needs to
carve
be
out.
done.
They just adapted the pharmaceuticals slogan, a better pill.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, does anybody have any last questions for Alan? I think we need to, he's got his homework.
Just hope the senator's feeling well.
Yeah, how's she doing?
Yeah.
Holding up.
yeah.
Great.
I mean, she's doing her events across the state. She's going to be going to Maui this week. Next week we're going to be in Hilo, visit hopefully a community health center
Excellent.
as well there too. She was at Kohi Palama Health Center
Great.
earlier this week. She is engaged with the health providers, the hospitals,
Good.
HMSA obviously as well too, the state, as far as the Affordable Care Act, what is working, what recommendations they have to strengthen it, because we're beyond the issue of repeal, so we're not even talking
You're
about
sure
that.
that that's not gonna, they're not
Yeah.
gonna.
You should
try
take
it?
a
I
look
mean,
at-
well,
Might come up again.
it could, but it's right now, we, like you said, we have to move, we have to be able to move forward.
Right.
So,
Leverage sometime in Washington if the senator were to invite Republican senators to go visit nursing homes and see how many people rely on Medicaid. I think that would be pretty influential. Certainly a great, with some press coverage, I think that would.
Oh, you know, there is one other point. You say nursing homes and that's the new, I believe it's regulation. Undoing an Obama regulation where now there's,
I've heard something about that, yeah.
right, the arbitration.
Yeah.
Right.
Which basically takes all the power
Right.
away from the residents of nursing homes and their families, and the nursing homes get a free-for-all. Is that something that Mazie
I have to
an
look,
opinion
yeah, I
on
have to
it,
look
and
look into that, because it was administrative, I don't know, again, what Congress can do to override the
Understood.
administrative process.
Understood, but that, I mean,
Yeah.
that's a big one.
Yeah, it is.
Thank you.
And what she does is very appreciated, but we don't want her overdoing either.
Yeah.
And she's a hero.
She understands that
Yes.
more so now, or like I said, again, listen to your body.
Yes.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, well,
Please,
thank you.
Alan, please give her our best regards.
I will.
Absolutely. Best wishes.
Thank you.